Welcome in, everybody, to ACC Football and Beyond. Yes, you heard right. So happy. We have been doing conference shows in college football for about 3 years. You probably are familiar if you've joined us with SEC Football and Beyond that we do. A nice note about that coming up in a second. But we have been doing ACC, Big 10, Big 12, Pac-12 for some time. So we're really excited about the fact that we are being able to do this over on Twitch TV, and obviously this ACC Football and Beyond show is also going to be part of the Podcast Park family. So a couple of news items out of the way. Want to make sure that you are watching us live if you can. And we're on Periscope, on Facebook, well, actually YouTube, Twitch. The best way is twitch.tv/Chris Landry Football. Subscribe to the channel, like us, click the heart button. We think you're going to absolutely love it. Join us in the chat room. You can catch this in a podcast form by signing up for the Landry Football Podcast channel, wherever you get your podcasts. And you can get, I'll tell you what you can get. You'll get the National College Football Show. You'll be notified with that when that comes out. The SEC Football and Beyond, ACC Football and Beyond. We've got an Alabama football show that we're delivering you. And for our NFL fans, you can catch the Scout's Eye on Pro Football by signing up for the Falcons channel and the Dirty Birds Nest, all through our great friends at Podcast Park based out of Atlanta. So we're really excited about that. We are going to be following this. Is going to be 2 hours. We're going to do an ACC show here. I'm going to get out a little bit before the top of the hour, and I'm going to be joining good friend Dan Matthews for SEC Football and Beyond. We're really excited. We've made some changes to the show. Certainly excited to have Dan Matthews to be joining me as we do SEC Football and Beyond twice a week now. But this is ACC Football and Beyond, and want to get to a couple of news items. And I'll tell you what we're going to do today. Since we're kind of getting close to the season, we're going to hit about 4 previews. And today we're going to do Clemson, North Carolina, NC State, Miami. And we're going to go ahead and get you maybe 4 for the next 2-3 weeks. We have gotten basically all of them done in the SEC, but we're kind of picking this up, and we want to get as much as we can done in the time frame. So we'll get through that pretty quickly today. But some news and notes around the ACC today. 4-star interior lineman Jalen Early, really good get for Florida State. 6'4", 320-pound senior from Duncanville, Texas. Good-looking kid. Great get for Florida State. Now, I know it's early. Got to reel them in, but they're getting them close to the boat as December is not too far away when you think about it. Getting him over A&M, Texas Tech, a few others, really good get for them. He's a really big kid, got good feet. It's outstanding. They've got now 6 offensive linemen in this class. Florida State can hold it together. They've got 18 commitments. This is going to be a really good class and a really good positive sign for Mike Norvell. Some other quick notes. Rod Smith, known Rod for a long time, the former Illinois offensive coordinator. He's been around a while. He's the co-offensive coordinator, Michigan, Arizona, Indiana, USF, quarterbacks coach at West Virginia. He's going to join the Virginia Cavaliers, Ruckel Mendenhall staff as an analyst. And former redshirt freshman running back Jawar Jordan is leaving Syracuse and going to Louisville. He's 5'9", 175-pound guy. He's got really good receiving skills, can help them. So late transfer portal news. So we'll try to do that and get you up to date at the top on each of the shows. Then we'll get into our film room breakdown segments, and maybe, time permitting, we'll get to some national news, which I have, and then we'll try to, again, time permitting, take your questions in the chat room, so bring it and we'll get to them. But I want to get to, first of all, the breakdown that we're going to get into Clemson, and I'm going to start there. And, I think that we know where this program has been. We know where their status is in this conference and then nationally. They have been just outstanding from the standpoint of their ability to recruit at a very high level, but to dominate a league. I think Ohio State's beginning to show their might in the Big Ten, but Clemson has just been so dominant, more dominant than any other. Now, how will this team look is going to be interesting. Offensively, when I break them down, and how I do these breakdowns is I go over the film grade notes from last year. I look at spring practice and certainly visiting with the coaches. Try to ascertain some things that I think, you'll want to look out for this year. The offense may look a little different. DJ Uiagalelei is a very talented thrower. I don't know that he's going to give you as much in the run game. And if you go back and look, Trevor Lawrence kind of bailed this team out on quite a few plays. The wide receivers may not be as good, but I think this will be a very productive offense. The one advantage you have if you're Clemson, and I've always said this, you can work through your schedule in the league, and by the end of the year can be a much better team than you are at the beginning of the year. You don't have as many roadblocks, meaning you can go through games, try some things out. Clemson plays more players in a game by a margin of 12 players average a year over the past 7 or 8 years than any other team in the country. That's because they can do that. They can get a lot more guys into the game because of big leads, and relative to who they play. Let's just call it what it is. I think the defense is going to be better. Last year was a little bit of a comeuppance. Boy, Ohio State beat them. Ohio State just beat them up good. They beat them with tempo, and they couldn't get lined up, and that was a problem. They have played a lot of young guys as Brent Venables on the defense. They're going to be better. They're going to be more experienced. I know, I've talked with them, they were really rankled by how they couldn't line up and couldn't make the adjustments, and they're preparing for that. They are really focused on how are we going to do that going forward if we see that, because we may not be taxed as much, because what beats you when you're going up against a great offense is not the tempo and the pace, but the tempo and the pace with the talent that you have, and that's what Florida State did. So that's what Ohio State did so well last year, and what they're going to have to be able to adjust to. The defensive line should be very good again. In fact, I think that the defensive line, with the amount of young guys that they've played, are going to be back to the old defensive line success. Venables does a great job matching his scheme and adjusting his scheme to the personnel around him. The defense had the best stop rate in the ACC last year in the red zone. It's the best Power 5 defense at getting to the quarterback. They're the second best in the nation at protecting the football, so that was always a big factor for them. And they need to improve on the offensive line. I thought they were inconsistent last year. I thought it affected them in the running game a little bit, and it hurt them, and obviously didn't show up to the end of the year. But I thought that was the difference. The defense was humbled in the playoffs. There's no question about that. So I think in last year's offensive line play in the run game was not Clemson-like. But I think that you're going to see some difference-making players. Remember the name Will Shipley. You're going to see Lynn J. Dixon get a lot of talk early, and they like to play a lot of senior guys, give you a chance. Will Shipley has the type of talent that is kind of reminiscent of Christian McCaffrey. He has a chance to be the next great one. He can, the Travis Etienne type of guy, he could be that, maybe even better in time. I hate to throw that on him, but he has that type of talent. We'll see what his work ethic and health and all those things, how that plays out. When I look at this team, the quarterback is very good. The running back position will be good. I think the receiver position will be very good. I think last year it struggled some. I think it's going to be very good. I think that the defensive line is very impressive. I think it's as deep as anybody in college football. I think the linebackers it's a good group returning. I think that when you look at the secondary, I think that they've got some key guys returning that I like. A couple of things jump out at me in terms of personnel. I talk about grades. Red grades, blue grades and red grades are the best players in the country. Blue grades are the elite guys, and red grades are the guys that win for you. Justin Ross on offense, Breezy, Murphy, even Skalski, not as a prospect, but as a college player, is an elite player. And I think Nolan Turner is an elite college player. Kevin Turner's boy, God rest his soul. Red graded players, they got a whole bunch of them. Galloway and Ungalele, Putnam, Bockhorst, both the left guard and left tackle, the left side of the offensive line, I think has a chance to be a little bit better than the right side anyway. Thomas and Davis on defense joining Breezy and Murphy and Spector. A lot of talent. Clearly a top 4 type of team personnel-wise. You look at their schedule. I'm going to get, as we get closer towards the season, talk a little bit more about the Georgia game. I think this is going to be a great matchup. That's not a surprise, but I do like Georgia a little bit. But if Clemson gets by this, only they can beat themselves. Yeah, I think that maybe having to play North Carolina in the championship game would be a little bit more difficult than in the past. But quite frankly, there's no question in my mind that this Clemson team has national playoff capabilities that you should take a look at and see when you're watching this team play during the year how good they can ultimately be. North Carolina State is a real interesting team, and if you look at their recent history, they have been at times pretty good, at times they've been real average, at times they've been a huge disappointment. They beat bad teams pretty well, and they kind of get beat pretty well, convincingly. I think the quarterback Leary's really good, but when he got hurt, it killed him. They need more talent around him. I think Amize is the big-time playmaker at receiver, very electric. Defensively, they're below average in terms of personnel, but they're returning 10 guys that'll help them. The secondary was torched last year, and just going back over the film grade notes, it was a real big problem. Look, their record was really good, but they didn't have to play. I mean, it was Wake Forest with an easier schedule. It just wasn't the same. They took care of business, and at least there's a consistency there that I like with Dave Doran's program. They are what they are, and I think if you can be consistent and beat who you're supposed to beat, then you've got to get to that level where there are more teams that you're capable of beating. And I'm curious to see it. Could finish second in that division. Listen, once you go past Clemson, it's all up for grabs. It's probably them and it's BC. They were very poor on punt coverage last year. They gave up 5 punts of 20-plus yards or more last year. Only Kansas and Hawaii were worse doing that. They got an elite running back, really good left tackle, really good wide receiver. The quarterback's really good. The offensive line play has to improve, but with a great running back to the running game, I think they have a chance to be a good offensively. Tony Gibson's defense, Tony's been around a while, 3-3-5 look. The emphasis on speed to get out and defend in space with all these spread guys. Look, they were a top 40 negative rate defense, creating negative plays. The linebackers, I think, are pretty solid, but I think that the rest of that defensive secondary, it's not as good as it has been. The defensive line is not as good as it has been to this point. After Clemson, look, there's North Carolina in the league overall, then there's Miami, then there's kind of the rest, and the rest would be probably starting with NC State. How many blue grade guys? Listen, I think if you don't know who Bam Knight is, you better figure it out because the running back is outstanding, and I think you're going to enjoy watching him. I do think Amize is an outstanding receiver. I got him as a red grade. I got their center, Grant Gibson, as a red grade. and the left tackle. Ikuano is to me a low blue graded caliber player. The thing I do like, although I'm not crazy overall about their defensive line and their depth, I do think both their ends, Joseph and Jackson, are underrated. I just think that in their style of defense, where they're having to, rush the passer, and I just think that they struggle particularly late, and they don't grade all that well towards the end of games. Moore and Wilson are good linebackers. Again, I think it's going to be about the secondary and how things play out there. One of the things that I would say about this program, it's one of these programs that if you look at their history, they have, they're kind of made with an ability to make some plays offensively, but they've been a physical, kind of a hard-nosed team when they've been on. And then when they're getting some play at quarterback that could do something special, then and maybe get a couple of playmakers, then they take their game to the next level. So that's a look at NC State, and you look at their season this year is going to be a lot of fun to watch. I don't know. A lot of people have great expectations. I would just say that second best in that division. But be aware of what you're getting that the best in that division is maybe not as good as you might think. Next up, the in-state North Carolina Tar Heels. If you look at Mac Brown in his second tenure there, his first recruiting class that he had there, coming back, was the best in a decade. The second class that he had there was even better than that. Offense was, top 5 nationally. They've got to fix the roster depth to finish games. If you look at the bowl game against A&M, if you look at the Notre Dame game last year, it's finishing. And if you're going to run that style, and it's a version of the air raid with more Phil Longo running that up-tempo spread, you got to have the horses to finish. You got to have that 4-minute offense. You got to be able to get off the field defensively. They've also got to maintain focus. What was that against Florida State? What was that against Virginia? Both offensively and defensively. Both offense took a day off in one game, defense took the game off in the other. It was just, what the heck happened there? That's where you go from being talented, good, to being really good, is being disciplined and focused to where you don't deal with that. Remember all the time we used to talk, and Dabo used to really hate this, talk about the Clemsoning, when they'd have that game or two. Well, that's what I kind of equate the Florida State and the Virginia games last year with North Carolina. A&M's really, really good. North Carolina, that North Carolina team last year, much more talented than Florida State and Virginia. They just didn't do a very good job getting, prepared and focused in that game. Offensively, Phil Longo, 4 verticals, crossing routes, mesh routes, wide receiver smoke screens, the variable adjust routes that they make, big line splits. But the offense is more about rushing the football and some power series, some downhill runs, some speed options, some spread option looks. The quarterback, Sam Howell's one of the best. The running back, they're replacing probably the best duo of backs in the country in Carter and Williams. But they've got some good ones. By the way, Ty Montgomery's been outstanding in their offseason program. They're really excited about what he can do. The receivers are very underrated, who they're going to miss from last year. They're very young. They need Blackwell, Downs, Brown, all a step up here. That's going to be pivotal for them, because I think the play at quarterback, the receivers, they can be in a special offense. The offensive line is a veteran group. It's good. Look, 30% of the offensive snaps in 2000 gained 10 yards or more. Okay, that was the most in the country. So when you talk and define big play offenses, they had that. They had that in spades. They led the nation in rushing yards or rushing plays of 10 yards or more. And their offensive red zone efficiency, it was a 43%, scoring on 43% of their possessions. Only 5 teams in the country were better at getting into the end zone from the red zone. Jay Bateman, the defensive coordinator that Mac brought in from Army, likes to cross-train players. So I'm excited to see what they're going to do with their defensive line. They're getting better. They're getting stronger. And I like to see that. I like to see what they're doing there. The linebackers are solid. The cornerback duo is probably as good as anybody in the ACC. But we need to see the overall depth. It just depends on how the defense grows up here. Love Howell, love Chandler, love Corrales, Walston at tight end. I think McKeithen at right guard. I've got red grades on those guys. I've got on defense, I've got the Sandbacker, Tom and Fox, and Gemmel, the middle Mike Backer, the boundary corner, Kyler McMichael. They line their corners up boundary in the field side, and then Trey Morrison, the free safety, is really good. But I think their blue grade candidates are the nose guard, Vozicek, and the left guard, Iduzo. Both of those guys, I think, are really, really good players. I don't think it's out of the question that they go 10-2. And they have the talent to do it. They got to go to Notre Dame. That's difficult. That could go either way. Folks, don't sleep week 1 at Virginia Tech. North Carolina is better than Virginia Tech. Will all the skill position guys, particularly the receivers and the backs, that I think will be really explosive for this North Carolina team, will they be honed and ready to go in week 1? I think by middle of the year at some point they will be. On the road in Blacksburg, Lane Stadium, just maybe a fun game to watch. Let's see if they can handle that. They got Miami. They play them. That's certainly a swing game. Notre Dame. Pittsburgh in November on the road is a challenge. No reason why they can't be a 10-2 type team, 9-3. This North Carolina team definitely looks like the second best program inside the conference. So that kind of leads, and put them to bed, it kind of leads to where I want to go with the 4th team I wanted to talk about today, and that was Miami. If you look at Miami, I just said that North Carolina's emerged as the second best looking program in the conference. And we know where Florida State is, where they've been, and where they've got to go to get back. If you look at their current state and you throw them out, you look at Miami and say, well, probably somewhere in the 15 to 20 range in terms of a team. Why not them being the second best? And maybe they are. Season will tell. I think North Carolina has passed Miami in recruiting in the Coastal Division. And I feel as a program, I see more stability. Now, I don't know how long Mac's going to be there, but I love the staff. If you look at Manny I think is growing as a young head coach, and he might get there. He seemingly has got his offensive coordinator, Rhett Lashley, kind of figuring it out a little bit. But, that's maybe the difference. I know it's disappointing and frustrating for Miami fans, though, that to have North Carolina come in and just in a couple of years do something that quite frankly, better than Miami's doing it. Offensively, I think this Miami team has evolved from the old pro-style, up-tempo, power spread. It was the most improved offense in the ACC last year. And I think top 5 improved offense nationally. The offense carried them last year. There's no question about it. And Derek King was the reason for that. They finished with 3 losses. The defense collapsed versus Clemson, and especially versus North Carolina. And it led to the firing of Blake Baker. And, Blake Baker was demoted, fired from defensive coordinator, and wasn't going to take the demotion down to linebacker, and he's now coaching linebackers at LSU. But the collapse on the defense kind of led to, it was a it was a snowball effect, and it was definitely something that just ended badly. And now Manny's going to call the defense, and we'll see how that works out. I like Rhett Lashley. He runs that up-tempo power spread, that he ran at, Auburn with Gus and SMU. And he's, I think, a little bit more flexible. I think he's got head coach in his future. It's the second year in that system, so I think that's a big factor for him. The quarterback, if D'Eriq King stays healthy, he's a difference maker. He's a game changer. They can win any game with him within reason, not Alabama week 1. But you want to put together a game that could maybe, a scenario where they could maybe make that game closer. D'Eriq King goes off with his legs and with his arms. He's an elite type of player that kind of carries this team. The running backs, there's a lot of vets coming back. I like the group. The receivers, they struggled with drops last year more than anybody in the country, certainly in the ACC. They're bringing in Charleston Rambo in from Oklahoma. I saw some improvements as the season went along. That's going to have to improve. They just left too many plays out on the field. With an elite quarterback, with the weapons that they have, I think the tight end, they'll miss Brevin Jordan, but Will Mallory's really good. And I think will help them and make some plays for them. Look, they were improved last year in the offensive line. They have all 5 starters back. It has a chance to be a pretty good offense, but it really revolves around D'Eriq King. Manny Diaz takes over the defensive play calling, as I mentioned. They got to replace their pass rush. Boy, they lost a couple of guys there. They don't have that. I don't know how they get off the field as consistently this year defensively. And we talked about their collapse. I think it's going to be tougher personnel-wise to get that done. They need work at linebacker. The strength of the defense is the secondary. You got 3 new defensive coaches there. Now, T-Rob, as they call him, Travaris Robinson, I think will certainly help them. And certainly a factor in recruiting, but how did that adjust? And so they got to replace a lot of defensive personnel. They've got to, that's a defense that forced a lot of negative plays. And if you go back even when Mark Richt was there, their defense created a lot of negative plays for the offense. So they've had a little bit of a run with that. They were top 10, I believe I had them, in negative play creators defensively. And I just don't know that they have the personnel to do that as much. Not so much in the back end, but on the front end. So I think that, they forced the most 3rd and longs. So I thought their 1st and 2nd down defense was one of the best in the country last year. They're going to be able to defend, again, the run and set the edge as well as they did last year. I'm not sure. Last year's offense was the most improved. How will that play out? Going to be a lot of fun. They start off with Alabama. You worry a little bit about that. I don't want to make this comparison, and I don't want to go out of whack with this, but remember a few years ago, a Florida State team played Alabama in the opening Chick-fil-A game, or I can't remember if it was that one or Dallas, whatever, the opening game. Now, I think Florida State was overhyped that year, and then they had the quarterback injury in the game. But that was a top 5, going into the season Florida State team. Pardon me. And it ruined their season. Alabama ruined their season, injured their quarterback, and it was a disaster. You hope that type of thing for Miami's sake doesn't happen, because I think they're going to get hammered against Alabama. As I said, they've got only a D'Eriq King puncher's chance just to make that game competitive. But if you look at it, at North Carolina in October, at Pittsburgh October 30th, Virginia Tech, those are some games. What am I looking at here? I'm sensing 8-4, 9-3 with them. We'll take you through the season, and we'll see how it goes out. So that's a look at Clemson. That's a look at North Carolina State, Miami. That gives you an idea of kind of how we'll roll on some of this. And now this is how we're going to do it. Just kind of give you a feel for it in a preseason mode that we're on. We're going to give you, like I said, like 4, maybe have to squeeze in 5 one of these next few weeks to get you prepared for the season. when we get into the season, obviously, we're going to break down the games and give you all the news and notes and inside, we're talking with coaching staff and people like that. So we're really excited about being able to bring this to you here on part of the Podcast Park family. You can catch this podcast. If you're just catching it and you haven't signed up, go over and sign up for Landry Football's podcast channel, wherever you get your podcasts. And that'll get you not only this podcast, but the SEC Football Podcast, the National College Podcast. We've got an Alabama podcast that we'll be doing with Ryan Fowler every Wednesday as well. And for you NFL fans, I know a lot of you like to get into the NFL. We'll certainly maybe hit on it, but we're going to drive you. We're going to have a strictly pro football show, and you're going to be able to get that through the NFL channel on Podcast Park. And the way you do that is you sign up for the Falcons channel and the Dirty Birds Nests, and all through our great friends at Podcast Park. And of course, you can catch us live here on Twitch TV. If you're listening to this podcast, you want to contribute to the show, and I see you there. Some of you have joined us in the chat room. I'm going to get you there, get to your questions there in a second. But you can join us and participate in the show by catching us live by going to twitch.tv/Chris Landry Football. Some national news, you've probably heard about it. Quinn Ewers, the top quarterback prospect in the country. We're going to talk a little bit about it. I hope you join myself and Dan Matthews for SEC Football and Beyond at the top of the hour, 5 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Eastern. We're going to do SEC Football and Beyond, and we're going to talk a little bit about what this really means. He is a very impressive young quarterback prospect. He is going to reclassify, and he's going to enroll into Ohio State early. Why? Name, image, and likeness. He's a type of guy that's going to get that money. We're going to get into those discussions there on that. Let's take a look at what is on your mind up into the chat room here. Blake, how are you? Blake, no, Colts, no, doing ACC and Beyond. Be doing all the shows. Dan Matthews will be joining me for SEC Football and Beyond. And I'll be doing the other shows solo. So we'll do that. Blake said we start with 8. We got NC State in there for you. Looking back at the easy schedule after ACC Bowl results, Clemson didn't deserve to get in the playoffs last year over A&M. No, I wouldn't agree with that. And the coaching staff over Georgia game day, I don't know about that. We'll see about that. If you look at Clemson, they certainly were outcoached against Ohio State. Look, everybody has their day. I think that's kind of an easy mark there. We'll see. Interesting, though. I can't tell you how eagerly anticipating I am for that Clemson-Georgia game. It's going to have a playoff feel early, even though those teams are not ready for the playoff. Hey, good to have Woodshed King joining us. So we'll see. Anyway, I appreciate that you guys joining us in the chat room. And again, if you got any questions, make sure that you check us out as we will try to answer your questions here and get through it. So we'll try to make it concise. We'll try to get to the news and notes, what's going on, and we'll get to the analysis. A lot of it during the season weekly is just the looking ahead to the games, looking back at what happened, what the film said, and then what's to look ahead for next week's game. So we think it's going to be a lot of fun. A note, yes, we will be doing, if you like all the conferences, on Twitch TV, twitch.tv/Chris Landry Football. You can catch Big Ten Football and Beyond, Big 12 Football and Beyond, Pac-12 Football and Beyond. Go to LandryFootball.com and check the schedule. You'll see, follow Chris on Twitch, go to the schedule, and you see when those are. I can tell you, we'll do ACC Football and Beyond in this time slot. SEC Football and Beyond will follow this. On Tuesdays at this time, we're going to have Big Ten Football and Beyond. But before that, at 3 p.m. Central, we're going to have Scout's Eye on college football nationally, a national look at the college game. We'll have Big Ten Football and Beyond at 4 p.m. Central. And then at 5 p.m., we're going to have Scout's Eye on pro football. The Big 12, the Alabama show, you can catch at 3 p.m. Central Time. The Big 12 show on Twitch you can catch at 4 p.m. Central, and the Landry Football Podcast at 5 p.m. Central. The Landry Football Podcast will go into a lot of technical stories and things. We'll talk about some of the news and notes, but we'll do a little bit different there. And then on Thursdays at 4 p.m. Central, Pac-12 Football and Beyond, and your second weekly edition of SEC Football and Beyond with myself and Dan Matthews. Excited that we are made some I think positive moves to really help the SEC show as we head into the season. Question about Jeff Collins. Jeff Collins is an outstanding coach. I think he hasn't quite gotten where I thought he would at this point at Georgia Tech. But I understood, and I kind of warned folks that going into that situation was going to be a big, massive change with trying to figure out how we're going to get, from the triple option to offensive lineman. I think that's a tough transition. So I'd say be patient with that. So anyway, I appreciate that. And in Woodcheck Kings asked, do you think it's possible in the modern day era for Miami to be as dominant as they've been in the past? I think it's going to be very difficult because when Miami did it, I think it's a different world. I think that the facilities race, the arms race has gotten to the point where it's really challenging. And look, that's why the job is, when Schnellenberger left, he got a great coach in Jimmy Johnson. They got Dennis Erickson. They got a lot of guys that have proven success. They've not had, if you look at the guys that they've hired, it hasn't been a lot of guys that it's a good job. It's a really good job. But, like, for example, Mario Cristobal. Let's say that job were open. It's Mario Cristobal, who's a Miami guy, a Kane guy. Would he leave Oregon to go there? I don't think he would. That tells you that. Why is it? Well, I think the arms race, the facilities, not quite as good. The stadium, I think all those things matter a lot more. And I think it's hurt them. I think it's hurt them quite a bit. I think they can still be good. I think the key for them is to be more consistent. They're still in a place with a lot of talent. And they should be more consistently relevant. But the up and down part of what they've done has been I think, the result of sketchy coaching, sketchy development. And I think those things have been a bit of a challenge. And if you think about this, and I've long said that I think there are haves and have-nots in college football. If you look at some programs are capable of winning it, some programs are winning it all, and in some it's just going to be very, very difficult. There's only, in 30 years, there's only 2 programs that have won a national championship for the first time. That's Florida State and Miami. And obviously, those are special circumstances with the Florida schools. So that's a look at it. Hey, look, it's been a lot of fun. Make sure that you mark this down every Monday at 4 p.m. Central Time, ACC Football and Beyond. At the top of the hour, it's going to be myself, Dan Matthews, bringing you SEC Football and Beyond. We're really excited about that. Go to twitch.tv/Chris Landry Football. Go to LandryFootball.com. Got a lot of news and nuggets. Got some recruiting information that's taking place today. Practices are getting ready to start up. You're an NFL fan. We've got a lot of training camp news and notes. Tough news for Carson Wentz. What do the Colts do at quarterback? Got it all for you there. So check out LandryFootball.com. Sign up for twitch.tv/Chris Landry Football. And sign up for Landry Football Podcast channel, wherever you get your podcasts. And make sure that you sign up for the Falcons channel on the Dirty Birds Nest so that you can get all the football shows, including my Scout's Eye on Pro Football. See you at the top of the hour with some SEC talk with my man Dan Matthews. See you then, folks. Stay tuned.